It's the Auto Club 500 presented by Q Motor Oil. A cast of thousands waiting for 500 miles of drama. Let's go trackside for the opening ceremonies.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you please rise and remove your hats as the governors and adjutant generals own from the California Army National Guard based at Joint Forces Headquarters in Sacramento present our nation's colors. And now, please welcome from Motor Racing Outreach, Jeff Hamilton as he delivers today's invocation.
Let's pray together. Our God and Heavenly Father, thank you for your goodness and this wonderful day you've given us in this great venue. Bless the track staff and sponsors who have made this day possible. May the drivers feel your pleasure as they do what they love and they sense your protection. Let the teams experience the honor that comes from having given their best. And may we, the fans, appreciate the effort made by all and enjoy the day's events. Bless all who gather here with your love and grace. Amen.
At this time, would you please remain standing and welcome four-time Grammy-nominated, double platinum-selling J Records recording artist and Season 3 American Idol winner, Fantasia, as she performs the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light which so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched was so gallantly streaming. That our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free?
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Fantasia.
Always a stirring moment here. Those F-18 Super Hornets on the flyover. Might see speeds like that on the track today. Not really, but you get the idea. Let's bring in the voice of the NASCAR on Fox, Mike Joy. And Mike, good to see you and the gang for another season, another race, a lot of racing and a lot of fun.
Thanks, Chris, and it's great to be back. Let's have a look at the NASCAR NEXTEL Cup point standings, which looks very much like the finish of the Daytona 500, as we remind you that every race pays the same amount of points as we work our way toward the chase for the NEXTEL Cup. Great to be back here in California, and great to be back on NASCAR on Fox with Larry McReynolds and three-time NEXTEL Cup champ Darrell Waltrip. I'm Mike Joy. A lot of folks, including the current champion, Tony Stewart, have said the real season starts here. Larry, why?
Well, yeah, this is definitely when they feel like their season starts, because this is the race where you feel like you'll find out how you really stack up against your competition, because 2/3 of the 2006 NEXTEL Cup schedule is about this type of racetrack. But what I love about this type of racing, it contains every element of our sport: aero, horsepower, chassis, and as we saw yesterday in the Busch race, into the race strategy.
The four restrictor plate races, Daytona and Talladega, are so important and so prestigious. But there's so many races like this one, Darrell. But this track is so fast and so wide that a driver, can he lull himself into a sense of security that 30 laps from now, his car will still work like it does when he comes out of the pit with fresh tires?
Well, that's the driver's job, is to keep that information flowing to the crew chief. You're going to hear crew chiefs say all day long, what's your car doing? What's it need? What can we do to make it better? And you've got to anticipate. You've got to keep thinking about it's going to tighten up. We got to make these changes. We got to keep working on this car so we don't get caught napping at the end of the race. Lead the most laps and not win the race, that's embarrassing. Lead the most laps, win the race, that's a great day.
So one driver may break out from the field, but chances are not for long. Earlier today, the Eagle One Shav Glick Lifetime Achievement Award presented to Carroll Shelby, noted sports car racer and creator of the Cobra, and Phil Hill, another Southern Californian, America's first Formula One champion.
But Jennifer's had enough of Jimmy.
Oh, Jimmy's down.
I don't know about that.
I don't know. Well, Jimmy leads the points with his win in Daytona. As we get ready to race in Southern California, you never know what's going to come at you when you're watching NASCAR on Fox.
Nice car.
Fans, it is time for the most famous words in motorsports. Please welcome LA Times motorsports riding legend Shav Glick to give the command.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
Team on 3, that's what it's going to take. 1, 2, 3, team!
Budweiser, official beer of NASCAR, proud sponsor of the Budweiser Pole Award, given to the fastest qualifier at each NASCAR and NEXTEL Cup Series race. Budweiser congratulates Kurt Busch for winning this weekend's pole.
Now he's got a year to look forward to that wild and crazy Bud shootout in February.
Beat the competition by over 0.2 of a second and qualified on Friday.
He and Jeff Burton already locked in to next year's Budweiser shootout. Let's have a look at the starting lineup for today's race. Kurt Busch and yesterday's winner, Greg Biffle, share the front row, a Dodge and a Ford. There's the point leader, Jimmy Johnson, with rookie J.J. Yaley in row 2. And as you have a look at the rest of the starting lineup, we go trackside to the executive editor, Speedway Illustrated, Dick Berggren.
Well, Mike, history has shown that the right pit strategy here at the California Speedway is more often than not more important than having the fastest car at the end of the race. It was yesterday in the Busch Series race, which Greg Biffle won. Last year, both races were won by tire strategy at the very end of the event. The year before, it was fuel, as 3 drivers ran out of gas on the last lap. All 3 had a chance to win it. So today, the pressure is on the crew chiefs every bit as much as it's on the drivers. Get it right, take the trophy home. Get it wrong, well, come back and try again. Let's go to Chris Myers and Jeff Hammond.
Yeah, Dick, I was just talking with our former crew chief down below the Hollywood Hotel at the Ford Fusion Cutaway car about that horsepower, brain power. Right, won and lost here on fuel mileage.
Exactly right now. Last week, Daytona, 15-gallon fuel cell. Well, that's gone. This weekend, we're back to our old 22-gallon fuel cell. We're talking about pit strategy, tire management. The right call on pit road today. I'm going to promise you this right now. I'll promise you folks at home, it's going to be 1 on pit road.
Sounds like you're selling a car. What's the fuel window here?
Right now, between 45 and 50 laps.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that. Let's check in with Matt Yoakum.
And believe it or not, it's actually sprinkling here in Southern California. But Greg Biffle told me that yesterday, even though he won the NASCAR Busch Series race, that he actually struggled in the first half because he didn't stay on top of the racetrack as it changed due to weather, because as the track cools down, this track tightened up so much that he really had to battle back from that. He says that's the biggest thing that he will have to battle today. But if you look back to last spring, he said you saw Carl Edwards at Atlanta and Kevin Harvick at Bristol sweep the weekend. He says, I've got the car that can definitely do that here today. He'll start on the outside of the front row. Steve Burns.
Hey, thank you, Matty. Speaking of Carl Edwards, he was picked by many as a preseason favorite to contend for the 2006 NEXTEL Cup title. But after being swept up into a big wreck in last weekend's season opener at Daytona 500, he finished dead last. Now, 2002, Tony Stewart finished last in the season opener, but came back to win the championship. In Carl Edwards' 3 California starts, he's finished 6th, 5th, and 4th. If he could do one of his trademark victory lane backflips today, he would go a long ways into getting him back into title contention. Mike?
Thanks, Steve. A lot of folks from car-crazy Southern California and throughout the West filling the grandstand here at California Speedway, coming in by car, by bus, and by Metrolink train to see today's race, as you will next.
Stay tuned for details on how to play the singular virtual crew chief during today's race. Watch for your chance to win my payday at the race in Daytona Beach on July 1st.
Getting set to go green in the Auto Club 500 presented by Q Motor Oil. On Fox, let's have a look at today's FedEx racetracks.
Well, DW, let's take a look at this. It's 250 laps, 500 miles, pit road speed. These guys, they didn't have to make a green flag stop at Daytona last week. 55 miles per hour. You heard Jeff Hammond talk about it. 45 to 50 laps in that fuel window.
Pretty easy pit road to get on to. Nice big pit boxes. Shouldn't be any big problems there. But here's where your keys to the race are right here. How are you going to win this race? First thing you got to do, Larry, the driver's got to watch that tack. Take care of the engine. We're going to run 500 miles today.
Absolutely. Take care of those RPM. Adapting to conditions. Being able to move that car around as the track changes throughout this race.
Well, as we said, Larry, that feedback from the driver. My car's doing this. My car's doing that. Thinking ahead, planning ahead.
And you heard Dick Berggren talk about it in the Busch race yesterday. Maybe not pit strategy necessarily, but that final pit strategy.
Matt Yoakum.
And Larry Mack talked about pit strategy, but it's also the guys that go over the wall. Now here, Matt Clark in the 24 pit. 6 of his 7 over-the-wall guys this year are new in the current roles they are. Only Jeff Cook, the Jackman, was in that role last year. Their spring training was the duel in Daytona. They won the battle off pit road, and they won their duel. But it could come down to how the driver enters his box. So many things can happen, but these guys are really pumped up about 2006. Steve?
Well, Matt, Mark Martin has a win on this racetrack. Now, last September, he was in contention for the win. The caution flag came out late. With less than 10 laps to go, Kyle Busch came to pit road and took 2 tires. Crew chief Pat Trison had Mark come to pit road and take 4 tires. Pat said, didn't work out too well for us. Kyle Busch won the race. Mark Martin finished 11th. He learned a lesson. Dick?
Well, you know that Kurt Busch is in the car that formerly was driven by Rusty Wallace, but so many changes on this team. New crew chief, new car chief, new spotter, new engine tuner, new shock expert. This team is really all new. They did well at Daytona. Let's see how well they hang together today and if they can deliver a win for Kurt Busch. Mike?
Ready to race in Fontana, California. The honorary starter is actress-singer Hilary Duff. Her sister Haley is an honorary race official. They and we and you are ready to get this show on the road.
Well, DW, the fans been waiting, and I'll guarantee you I've been waiting for almost 8 months to tell you, reach up there and pull those belts tight one more time.
All right, Larry. All right. Coming to the green, coming to the green. It's out. Buggity, buggity, buggity. Let's go racing, boys.
California style.
Yeehaw. Take her all down in there.
Leads lap 1 with a lot of 3 wide, middle and back of the pack.
And that's something Kurt Busch wanted to do. He wanted to get those 5 points for leading that lap right there.
4 wide there going down into turn 1, this little crowd right here. But you can do that here. This front straightaway is really, it sets you up for kind of being a loser getting down into turn one if you get in the wrong place.
Dale Jarrett.
Started back in the 19th position right now.
Looking back at Jeff Green.
Track conditioning is going to be good today. It's a little overcast, not quite as hot as it was when these guys were qualifying and practicing. That's really going to help tighten the cars up, get them a lot of grip.
See Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 8 car. Riding with him down the front stretch, looking out at Scott Riggs in the Valvoline 10 car. Dale Earnhardt Jr. started in the 18th position. That's about where he's running right now.
Let's go to 4th place. Kyle Busch ahead of Denny Hamlin and Jeff Burton. Kyle just passed Hamlin, the rookie, in the 11 a lap ago.
Look at this right here. Matt Kenseth, Jeremy Mayfield, Robbie Gordon.
Yep, 7 is Gordon, 41 Reed Sorensen, 07 rookie Clint Boyer.
And I would definitely keep an eye on that 17 car right there because he's been passing about 4 or 5 cars a lap. That's Matt Kenseth. Didn't get that good qualifying run in on Friday. But watching him yesterday, he was one of the fastest cars, the most consistent cars in race practice.
Ryan Newman on the march, battling Joe Nemechek in the Army 01. 10th place here.
And Ryan Newman in the 12 car, they didn't have that good of a qualifying run, but Darrell, I just believe he and his crew chief Matt Boylan, they are focused on race setup this year.
Yeah, well, they came with the Intrepid, which is different than the Charger. It's an older car, but they like the balance of the car. But I do think they may have to learn a little bit about it because this is a different aero package than they ran with the Intrepid 2 years ago.
And still a lot of 3 wide racing, as drivers who maybe didn't qualify quite so well jockey to move up. And smoke from, was that Jeff Green in the 66? Must have been a little tire rub going into the corner there.
Well, these cars are, you know, they'll bottom out a little bit, rub a tire up in the fender, particularly early when the air pressure is still coming up.
Greg Biffle, you won't see Biffle very far off the lead much of today. He won yesterday's NASCAR Busch Series race here.
Biffle has the potential to stink up the show.
And this was the type of racetrack. We talked about 2/3 of the schedule being like Fontana. This is a type of racetrack that he really adapted to a lot as he's up there battling for the lead here on lap 5. And this is the same chassis that he won Homestead with, but it has that new Ford Fusion body that I think is actually a little better than the Ford Taurus body.
Oh, by all means. And I think Kurt Busch in the 2 car, that's a Dodge, it's an Intrepid. See, I think they were looking, here he comes. Here comes Biffle for the lead. You see he runs off the bottom here. They're going to drag race down the front.
Yeah, Kurt Busch in the 2 lost so much momentum over in turn 4, his car walked up the racetrack with him.
But I think Kurt really is responsible for these guys going back to this older car because he knew what the Ford Taurus was like. He drove the Charger, he drove the Intrepid. He said the Intrepid's more like my old Ford Taurus was.
Lurking just outside the top 10 is Mark Martin, carrying AAA colors this year on his Jack Roush Racing number 6. He runs in 11th, just ahead of teammate Carl Edwards. Here's Steve.
And Mike, he had some anxious moments early in this race before the pack sorted out a little bit. He said over his radio, "Get me a driver's side mirror out. I'll put it on the first pit stop." It's a little mirror that the drivers use as a side view mirror.
Well, you need that here because of all the side racing as you saw early on. Now what will happen, they'll all try to get single file pretty as soon as they can because all that is exciting to watch, that side-by-side stuff, but it's no fun for the driver, particularly the one on the outside.
The driver on the outside right now is J.J. Yaley, the rookie in the Joe Gibbs number 18, the Interstate Batteries car. That ride vacated by Bobby Labonte. And Yaley right now is 10th.
Tell you what, we were talking about Matt Kenseth a while ago in the 17 car right there. Started back in 31st position. He's been making a move, but that car up there on the outside, Jimmy McMurray in the 26, he's been making moves as well up there in the 21st position now. Well, remember, this car right here is the car that Kurt Busch drove last year. It was the 97 car, but now Jamie McMurray in it, same team, just a 26 number.
That red car there on the inside with a big old 8 on the side of it, he's backing up. He doesn't seem to be real happy with his car right now.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. started 18th, now running 19th, made a little bit of gain early.
Car looked like it looked like it fell off. He took off, looked like he had a pretty good run, and all of a sudden it just started going backwards.
And he was not very happy with his car in practice yesterday, but this was the type of racetrack that was the Achilles heel for this 8 team last year, the high-speed, flatter racetracks.
Let's ride along. And we'll check with Matt.
4 car lengths back to the 10th car. You clear all around.
That was his spotter, Steve Meal, clearing him. Now, this team enters Fontana, a place where they've really struggled, Mike, like you've mentioned all weekend in the past, but they feel like they were slowly gaining on it, much like Jeff Gordon. They realize they're not going to hit that sweet spot in one weekend, but they're making gains on that 1.5-mile, 2-mile program. They're expecting a good top 10 run today, and that would almost be a victory for them.
Well, they've got a lot of work to do.
I just remember talking to Tony Jr., and you know, he worked with Michael last year quite a bit of the year. I just think that there's 2 different setups here for Dale Jr. and Michael. They never liked the same thing. It's going to take them a race or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 to get on the same page.
Looking from Joe Nemechek in the 0-1 back at Jamie McMurray. And a big knot of cars behind McMurray. This is 14th place on back.
And there goes Matt Kenseth again. I mean, he's getting 1 or 2 cars a lap, but again, based on watching his car in practice yesterday, he was on the mark. And this is a battle for 3rd place with teammates. Kyle Busch in the 5, and you're riding with the Daytona 500 winner, Jimmy Johnson, in the 48.
Well, Kyle Busch likes this racetrack. He got a win here last year. That car is really, really looking good right now.
11 laps complete. Greg Biffle out in front of pole sitter Kurt Busch in the Auto Club 500, presented by Q Motor Oil.
The Auto Club 500 on Fox is presented by Q Motor Oil, the heat-activated oil that helps maximize the power of your engine. Unleash all your horses. And sponsored by the all-new 2006 Ford Fusion. Put your life in drive. By Sprint, proud partner of the NASCAR NEXTEL Cup Series. And by State Farm. Great service and great rates. You can get it all from State Farm.
You got to be willing to fight for it.
Craig Biffle trying to double up here in California. Yesterday, the Busch race winner, and today he is out front of pole sitter Kurt Busch by 1.9 seconds. Jeff Burton in 3rd, Jimmy Johnson 4th. There's a new 5th place car, and it's Big Orange. Tony Stewart, the defending Nextel Cup champion, drove around Kyle Busch to put himself in 5th.
And I've been watching the scoring monitor. He started back in the 12th position, and he's been one of the cars that seems to be able to run laps about equal to Greg Biffle in the 16, our leader, and he's been mowing them down as he's up there now battling Jimmy Johnson for 4th in the 48.
Leader just went by the line, and here comes Tony. He's leader's down in the middle of 1 and 2, and here comes these guys. So the 16 cars definitely got everybody's number.
For more on Stewart, Dick Bertrand.
Talking to Stewart's crew chief, Greg Zimbinelli, this morning, Mike, and he said that so far this has been a fun, trouble-filled weekend. They unloaded that number 20 car, a brand new car, and it was fast right off the truck. Stewart, for his part, has simply refused to talk about what has gone on last weekend at Daytona. He said to the reporters, if you want to ask me about this week, we'll talk all you want. You want to talk about Daytona? Go talk to somebody else. And Stewart said he's in such a good mood that the reporters can't tick him off here in California.
You're right, Dick. He went on to say, the only thing I know about history is that in all of history, nobody's been able to change it.
And the other thing is,
let's move on.
You don't learn from history. That's the other thing history teaches us.
You can see the different lines you can run on this racetrack. We talked about that earlier in the show. If your car is a little bit tight, you know, you can move it around. You can move it up to the middle of the racetrack. You can run the top or the middle at one end of the racetrack. You can run around the bottom at the other.
Yeah, and I just noticed the sun's peeking through pretty good. That changes things dramatically here. Clouds, overcast, tracks one way. That's why these drivers have got to continually be talking to the crew, telling them what's going on out on the racetrack.
Guy that just lost a couple of positions there in that black car, Jeff Gordon, in the 24 car. He started 9th. He had kind of maintained, Matt, but he just lost 2 positions.
Larry Mack right now is just trying to hang on. He's got a balance issue. He says the loose end is just really killing him. The car just has an uneasy feeling, but he can't. The biggest issue, he just cannot get back in the gas. The car is way too tight on exit. He has to wait for the car before he can get back in the gas. Right now, he's just figuring out the game plan for their first stop of how to fix it. Mike, what about that paint job?
DuPont is Gordon's sponsor. DuPont Automotive Finishes. Hot Hues is their custom color line. That's a Chip Foose design. Street Rodders are familiar with Chip's great designs and his work. It takes a long time to paint those flames.
California kid right there.
Yeah.
But one thing I noticed, Larry, as that car comes off the corner of the 24, the nose is really high up in the air, like it's packing the nose. That's going to make it really, really tight off.
And, of course, tight off means as he goes through the middle of the corner, to the exit of the corner, he's turning the steering wheel, but the car's not turning. It's just sliding the front tires.
Nothing's happening. You got a lot of wheel and no response.
Kevin Harvick up the racetrack just a little bit in the Icebreakers Goodwrench Chevy. Dale Jr. trying to move past on the inside, and Harvick waves him by. Steve?
Well, Mike, there's a good reason for that. Kevin Harvick started 15th, moved up to 10th, but he's dropped to 12th because his car has gotten very loose in and on the throttle. It's also running hot. Now, down here in the pit box, they have a picture tape that shows the tape configuration. They're talking about pulling some tape off that grill. You can see they're also numbered 1, 2, and 3. Todd Berrier, the crew chief, will tell one of the mechanics which part of the tape to remove, but as Larry Mack says, no free lunch in Aero.
But Darrell, I'm going to tell you what, that is not very much opening on that race car right there. I kind of find it hard to believe that they started the race with that much of that nose taped up.
Well, remember, Larry, the Fusion and the Monte Carlo both have new noses. They went through Daytona without a whole lot of problem, but it was cool in Daytona. Today it's a little warmer, and they're going to have to play with that tape a little bit. But that is, you're right, that's not near enough opening for a racetrack like this.
And the reason they put that tape on the nose is because it really helps the aero part of the car. It nails the front end down, plus it helps the straightaway speed. So you try to run as much as you can, but you've got to have enough open to cool the water in the radiator.
And that's an easy adjustment. Tape on, tape off. Pretty easy to do. It's kind of like wax.
It makes me want to clap. Greg Biffle, 2.8 seconds ahead of Kurt Busch, Jeff Burton, Tony Stewart, and Jimmy Johnson in the Auto Club 500, presented by Q.
27 laps in at the California Speedway. Greg Biffle in a Ford, leading Jeff Burton, followed by Kurt Busch. So far, Biffle has led the most laps in this race, and Jack Roush and his Ford's Jeff Hammond crowded up near the top.
Real strong right now as he takes the lead from the pole sitter right there, Kurt Busch. The 16 car now showing the way.
Carl
Right
Edwards.
there, Carl Edwards, he's now broke up there in the top 10. Looking really good. All his teammates right now, just all the Roush cars are coming to the front right now. But this young man right here, he's been doing really good all day long. He's working his way outside of Jeff Gordon right there.
And Matt Kenseth has worked his way up to 12th as well.
As you can see right there, Greg Biffle may be leading. Carl Edwards is 8th. Jamie McMurray in the 26 car this year, 9th. Mark Martin, hey, the veteran campaigner, he's 10th. And Matt Kenseth started way back in 31st. He's already up to 12th.
Greg Biffle won the Busch race yesterday here and won this race last year. Mike?
Of the 33 major races held at California Speedway, Jack Roush has won 10 of them, including 3 here in Cup. How about Jeff Burton, who's moved up to second place?
Yeah, I was just going to say, he got by Kurt Busch there a minute ago. This race has taken on a very similar appearance to yesterday's race. Biffle and Jeff Burton chasing him down just like yesterday over the long run. Let's see how he's doing here. He's down into turn 1.
That's right at about 190 right there. 14 degrees of banking.
This is where you really know how good your car is. If you can get back in the gas, come off of that corner wide open, that's when you're really handling well. You don't have to play with the throttle. You're not pushing. You're not loose. We're going to go down into 3. You can really pack it in here, get it on the bottom. Yesterday he was so good here off turn 4, and he is again today, Larry, right on the bottom, accelerating up.
And it doesn't sound like he's having to play with that throttle a lot off the corner, which helps that straightaway speed. There comes Tony Stewart in that 20 car going by Kurt Busch in the 2. This is the battle for 3rd.
Yellow.
Caution's out. Caution's out. Debris in turn 3. Track's clear.
First caution of the day. It comes working lap 31. We had a late race caution yesterday in the NASCAR Busch Series when a driver's glove came out on the track. Officials thought it might be a piece of metal debris or bodywork. Through the caution, our long lenses showed it was a driver's glove, and NASCAR checked, but could not determine whose glove it was that brought out that final caution.
Well, it wasn't mine.
Pit stop. Welcome back to the Auto Club 500 presented by Q Motor Oil on Fox. Yellow flag pit stops. Caution out at lap 31 for backstretch debris. And here's what happened when the leaders came onto pit road.
And I think pretty much of our 40 cars still on the lead lap, everyone came to pit road, and I think it was for 4 tires, fuel, and adjustments for everyone.
And these pit boxes, I love these pit boxes. They're huge. You got plenty of room to work. You don't get boxed in. You don't get crowded. Probably the biggest issue is the driver's got to hit his mark because the box is so big.
And Darrell, this is a much longer pit road than we had at Daytona.
Yeah, you just saw as they all left the pits, as you'll see here later, it was a mad rush down at the end of pit road down there.
Biggest thing is 40 cars on pit road at one time.
Now the speed limit line on pit road is here. The line that marks who gets off pit road first is here. And Jimmy Johnson is the first man to that line.
Now, you know, Wheeling has got a new light that they've installed. You know, I always complained about that last section of the speed out. Everybody gets pinned for speeding out. Well, they put a light up now so you know where it is.
Now, that was the battle between Kurt Busch and the 2, Jimmy Johnson and the 48. I think the reason Kurt Busch was able to win that battle, he's in that very last pit stall, which is especially good for under caution because he just has to move a little ahead to win the battle off pit road.
There's the light I'm talking about. That didn't used to be there, but everybody got nabbed speed out because once you cleared the end of the pit wall, you were thinking you were clear of the pits. They put the light up now, and I like that a lot.
Kenny Wallace gets the free pass. He was the first car 1 lap down when that caution came out. And let's update pit stops, beginning with Matt.
Greg Biffle was first on and first off pit road. Now, we told you at the beginning of the show how he made a mistake in Saturday's Busch Series race that cost him for a few segments. Well, he remembered that when his crew chief, Doug Richards, said, what changes do you want to make to try to tighten up your car? He says, I don't want to make any changes. I feel like the track is already tightening up. I want one small air pressure adjustment because I feel like we are getting better and better as we log more laps. To Steve.
Matt, Carl Edwards started this race 22nd, got up into the top 10, told his crew, I'm having a good time out here. He was trying different lines, said his car was just a little bit tight in the center, so they made an air pressure adjustment to the left side tires, taking air out, and they went up on the track bar. Dick?
Well, Darrell, you're absolutely right about these pit boxes in California. 20 feet wide, 41 feet long. Those are the longest pit boxes of any pit road that Fox TV works in our half of the year. Kurt Busch wanted to change the chassis on his car. He has been pushing all race long, and the push had gotten worse and worse, so the crew adjusted for that on their pit stop. Car 31, Jeff Burton, pitted right behind him. No changes at all at that car. Burton happy with the way his automobile is performing this afternoon.
What I'm hearing, it doesn't sound like a lot of people were totally happy with their cars. A lot of adjustments made on those stops.
Well, if you noticed there, Larry, just for that caution, everybody just started moving all the way up around the top of the racetrack, which means the cars are not very happy right now.
Let's get our first singular virtual crew chief question in for the day. Will NASCAR curb rough driving by policing it more closely in 2006? Vote yes or no by texting the word crew to 191 on your singular wireless phone or going to foxsports.com. And you'll be entered for a chance to win Jeff Burton's payday at the Pepsi 400. Fantasia, what a great job singing the national anthem today. She's in Carl Edwards' pit. She's all suited up. She's ready for relief duty, it looks like.
There's Troy Aikman in Troy Aikman's pit.
Yeah, he is. He's a
Hall of Fame racing.
He said, what down is it? How much till halftime?
He and Roger Staubach involved in the 96 that Terry Labonte is driving. Started at 43rd, running up in 34th right now. Well, we have our Fox traditions, one at the start of the green flag of every race, and another on a few restarts throughout the day, because we know for Christmas, so many of you got surround sound systems.
And if you already had it, I know you've been waiting about 8 months to hear this as well. So what do you think, boys?
Let's crank it up. I'll take the high road, you take the low road, and I'll get to the finish line before you. But how about this group?
Here's a 3 wide right here. J.J. Yaley in the 18 on the outside. Casey Mears in the 42 in the black car. He split the middle with his teammate Reed Sorensen in the 41.
That was an ugly drag race right there. 3 wide.
There's teammates again. Kyle Busch in the 5, pushing Jimmy Johnson in the 48. We're riding with him here.
Tony Stewart under Jeff Burton, right behind them.
This is a battle for third right here we're riding. Now we're riding with Jeff Burton in the 31 car back in 5th.
A pretty timely caution flag for all these guys. They've run 30 laps there. They had a chance to kind of analyze their car. Some of these guys are probably going to make their cars a lot better. We're going to see more people running up front.
See Jeff Green, that 66, just like earlier in the race on that low air pressure, has got that little bit of fender rub on the tire. Once the air pressure builds up in the tires, they start the air pressure down because they know it's going to grow over the course of a run.
Well, they got a new left side tire here this race, Larry, and the sidewall in the left side tire is a little softer, and the tire compound on all 4 tires a little harder than last year. So tires don't seem to be a real big issue this year.
Boy, Tony Stewart in that 20 car, Chris Myers in the pre-race did the 10 laps with him. There you see he got 2 positions coming off turn 2. He got that good run down low and was able to go by Jimmy Johnson in the 48 and Kyle Busch in the 5.
But you know what I liked about it? Tony, you know, said, look, guys, Daytona is Daytona. Let's move on. We can pick Daytona to death. We can be all over NASCAR. We can be all over each other. We got races to run. We got a long way to go for this year, but we're with.
Now, NEXTEL Cup is off next week. The NASCAR on Fox will be in Mexico City with the NASCAR Busch Series on the road course, the Rodriguez Brothers course.
We were there last year, 100,000 people there on race day.
A lot of fans. And a good race. Martin Truex Jr. won it.
And you know what? I don't know. I have a hard time with the language, but they understand boogity, boogity, boogity just like we do.
We tried to translate that, and we didn't do well.
We got a lot of different translations.
Denny Hamlin, one of the rookies this year, driving for Joe Gibbs Racing, the FedEx number 11. He's been top 10 all day.
And this group elected to not run the second practice. Darrell, we talked about engine attrition there at the beginning of the show. They put so many laps on their car. The first practice, I talked to crew chief Mike Ford. He said the car was good. We decided to keep laps off this thing.
Well, you gotta manage your engine when you come to a 500-mile race, and you got to qualify, and particularly without the impound, you get a lot of practice laps.
Very talented rookie crop for 2006. Let's meet Denny Hamlin.
Denny Hamlin. Hi, I'm Denny Hamlin from Chesterfield, Virginia, driver of the FedEx Chevrolet Monte Carlo SS. This is my first full season in NEXTEL Cup, and I'm going for Rookie of the Year. I am a huge Redskins fan. When I was 11 years old, I once stood in line for 3.5 hours waiting to get Joe Gibbs' autograph. Now he's my boss. Joe Gibbs is a great guy to work for. He knows to put people in the right positions, and I'm lucky to be part of his elite group of players. I used to be a big-time bowler. I once had a perfect game till the 9th frame. In Huntersville, North Carolina, there's a Reuben sandwich named after me. If I win a race, I become a filet. Filet. Filet.
Now, there's something to aspire to. Carl Edwards outside of Hamlin.
You know, it is exciting, and it's fun to be able to grow up and not only meet your hero, your childhood hero, but to work for him. That's got to be a huge honor and a great feeling.
Another of those great rookies, Clint Boyer from Emporia, Kansas, who came out of Midwest Late Models and the NASCAR Elite Division.
And had a great Daytona 500, finished 6th down there.
Let's check with Matt.
And Denny's having a very solid run inside the top 10. Now, before that pit stop, he was just screaming that the car was so loose, very hard to hang on to. But Mike Ford said, look, even though the car is so loose, you're only a 10th off the leader. But they made a significant track bar adjustment, Larry Mack. They went down 2 rounds. Also a big air pressure adjustment, trying to tighten up that 11 car for this run.
Well, I'll tell you what else is tightening up right here is this battle for second. Tony Stewart, that 20 to the bottom of the racetrack, goes below Kurt Busch in the 2 car.
Yeah, he did a little home improvement on the 02 car there.
When Tony's car is right, he's going to run the bottom of the racetrack no matter where we're at.
Yeah, he always kids about guys being bottom suckers, and he's one of them.
right around that white line.
.44 laps complete, only one caution flag so far. That one for debris in the back straightaway, and 41 of 43 cars on the lead lap. Only Stanton Barrett, who made an early pit stop, and Michael Waltrip, who stopped with the hood up under that caution, are one lap down. Greg Biffle is the leader. He is 1.3 seconds now ahead of a fast closing Tony Stewart.
The Auto Club 500 on Fox, presented by Q Motor Oil, is sponsored by Budweiser, the official beer of NASCAR, and proud sponsors of Dale Earnhardt Jr. and the number 8 car.
Movie stars, they're all so beautiful and clean. I want to live a life like that, because I'm the next big thing in Beverly Hills. That's where I want to be.
From the Hollywood Hotel, Jeff Hammond, Chris Myers, I'm glad to have you with us on Fox. We've only had 2 leaders and 3 lead changes. Approaching lap 50 here, Greg Biffle has led the most laps so far, slightly ahead of Tony Stewart, who's worked his way up to the front.
Yeah, right now we've been watching Tony Stewart make his way around a lot of this competition, but so far, look at the lap times. He is almost mirroring the 16 car Greg Biffle, but he did give up a little bit of ground, you know, working his way through traffic. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not he can get a little bit of pull off the draft that you get here at California Speedway and be able to close in on Greg Biffle and see how really tough he is.
And Darrell, Larry, and Mike pointed out Matt Kenseth, one of the greatest climbers so far, all the way up to 6th, not too far away from Tony Stewart.
Not too far away from Tony Stewart. That could be real interesting as we go deeper in this race, because I think if Matt can ever get up that lead group, he's got something for him.
All right, let's rejoin Mike, Darrell, and Larry.
Tony Stewart was closing on Greg Biffle, but he's not been able to gain any ground. He's still 1.3 seconds behind. There is Stewart. OAD is overactive adrenaline disorder. These 3 Ford drivers have it. That's what they've gained as they move up through the field. Since the start of today's race, right this moment, 5 of the top 10 drivers are in Ford Fusions, and the fastest mover of them is that 17.
He's still on the move, and ironically, the fastest movers are all Roush cars.
Another jack attack.
Roush has 3 Cup wins here, 5 in the Busch Series, counting the 3 by the John Reiser-owned car, or excuse me, 5 plus the 3 of the John Reiser-owned car driven by Matt Kenseth, and 2 truck wins, including Mark Martin. Your Friday night.
I was going to say, Mark won Friday night for Jack. Biffle won yesterday for Jack. And they're looking pretty good today for Jack.
When I look at McMurray right there in that purple 26 car, remember, he started back in 25th. He's up to 7th. Now, this race team with Kurt Busch won this race 3 years ago, but McMurray has 5 starts here. He's finished in the top 5 3 times, so he likes this racetrack as well.
He runs in 7th right now, Steve.
Mike, he likes this race car a lot. The only comment he's made to Jimmy Fennick was it's just a little bit snug.
Jeff Gordon, past winner here, has had a kind of uncharacteristic day. He's now running in 17th position. Matt, what's up with Jeff?
He started the day out 9th, as you can see on the bottom of your screen, currently 17th. Now, Steve Letarte, his crew chief, told me they expect good things this weekend, but this is some recent conversation on the radio from Gordon to his team, talking about how bad he is struggling with that 24 car.
Tight it all in the center?
I'm just so bad getting in and off. We don't even need to worry about that tightness. I mean, I'm sliding the back end before I ever even get to the corner.
Now, Letarte told me that they don't expect miracles, but they feel like each week the goal is just to get better, and they've got a lot of work to do to get that 24 car better on the next stop, formulating a game plan of what changes to make to the 24.
Well, to me, what's so ironic, you see the 24 Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 8 car running together. I think that was the biggest question over the winter. Has these 2 teams turned their 2005 seasons around? This is the type of racetrack that fought both of these race teams
last year. And I think the biggest reason it started fighting them, Darrell, is when NASCAR cut that inch off of that rear spoiler. You hear Jeff Gordon talk about being loose, getting in the corner. The rear's wanting to come around at over 190 miles per hour. They just can't give these two drivers the feel they're looking for with this package at this type of racetrack.
Yeah, and the bad news, the worst news is we run a lot of tracks like this.
Yes.
And mile and a halves and 2-mile racetracks.
Jeff Gordon, a 3-time winner here in California, but in the last 3 races here has not finished in the top 20.
Junior's been 19th or worse here the last 4 races. 2 DNFs.
Let's check up on our singular virtual crew chief question about NASCAR policing rough driving. You said NASCAR's policing it closely, will curb it by a margin of 2-1.
Well, I think that's a great place to start with the drivers. Talk to them, see if you can get something worked out, just like we did with the no racing back to the yellow. We used to live by that, and we all abided by it. But when it got to the point where they wouldn't do it on their own, NASCAR had to step in. Rough driving, if you won't do it on your own, we have to step in.
42, Casey Mears behind Gordon, who's battling J.J. Yaley high up on the outside. What a start to this season he's had. More on Mears in a minute, who runs in 17th. Let's have Matt update the Gordon story.
And Mike, when Jeff Gordon missed the chase last year, that was one of the biggest headlines of 2005, but the team actually felt like it was a blessing because it gave them an opportunity to test on all those 1.5-mile, 2-mile tracks that make up the chase. And when you look at his stats, it's kind of surprising when you go back to October 2002 to current day. He has not had a lot of success. In fact, his only wins on a 1.5-mile, 2-mile track, Atlanta in October 2003, and right here at Fontana, May 2004. So they know this is the type track configuration they really have to improve on if they're going to get this team back to championship caliber.
Right behind Gordon, Casey Mears. This is a home game for Mears, who is from Bakersfield, California, moves from the Target car over to Haviland colors and the 42 for the 2006 season. The newest of the Mears gang is Uncle Rick Mears, 4-time winner of the Indy 500. Casey's dad, Roger Mears, a legend in off-road and desert racing. And in this period video, who's that little fella? He's a young kid who went on to drive Indy-type cars, win the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona this year, and last week run second in the Daytona 500. Combine that with his top finishes at the end of last season, and a lot of people think this could be a breakout year for Casey Mears.
Yeah, you take the Daytona 500 in the final 3 races of last year, the last 4 races, 3 top 5 finishes, the hottest driver in that 4-race period.
On your left, the lead battle, Biffle and Stewart in the 20. On your right, the 4th place race, as Matt Kenseth in the 17 takes it to Jimmy Johnson.
That 20 car, Tony Stewart, he has been mowing Greg Biffle down. Yeah. About 2 to 3 tenths a lap.
He has, and the thing about Tony's car, it is so consistent. He runs in the 41s, high 41s all the time. Greg's been pretty consistent, but he's in the low 42s just enough.
Boy, he about ran out of racetrack, had to snatch the thing back to the left, but he stayed in the throttle. Looks like he's going to almost complete the pass going down the front straightaway.
Look, he did not intimidate Biffle the least bit. Biffle's still in the gas.
And Biffle is one of those kind of guys that you don't really want to get riled up too much.
If Biffle just stayed in the throttle, got that good run, now if Tony Stewart in the 20 can get the run off too, and he does, slides up in front of Biffle to take the lead.
Now Michael Waltrip in front of them has his arm out the window, waving everybody to the inside of his car, which will go 2 laps down.
And Tony was waving back at Biffle too, because he could see the way Biffle came back on him with a lot of aggression. Hey dude, I'm sorry. He put that hand out there and gave him a wave, because that was a very aggressive move. Easy to do off turn 4. You come in here, you got a lot of push, got a lot of wheel in the car. Coming, run out of track. No harm, no foul.
Once again, at about 180, 85 miles per hour.
So Tony Stewart, the defending and now 2-time NEXTEL Cup Series champion, into the lead at lap 61. Dick?
Well, as Tony was closing on the leader, Mike, I told you he was feeling light and breezy, and he just came on the radio and said to his crew, "Here, kiddy kitty, 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 kitty.
Matt Kenseth has made quite a charge through the field in that DeWalt 17.
Yes, he has.
And I think the two cars that showed so good in yesterday's practice on long runs, maybe not the fast cars, they're showing up now, and it's Matt Kenseth in that 17 and our leader, Tony Stewart, in that 20.
62 laps complete, 188 to go, and Tony Stewart out in front of Greg Biffle. Racing involves quite a bit of trust as Greg Biffle runs the high side. Tony comes up and keeps his distance. So let's make Tony Stewart our Allstate Good Hands driver today. Allstate, official insurance partner of NASCAR.
You know what's going to be interesting, DW and Mike, we're about 10 laps away from what will probably be the first green flag stop of the 2006 season for these teams. Up around lap 75 to 80, see Michael Waltrip, the 55 car, actually on pit road already.
Yeah, Michael's still got an engine problem. He's running on 7 cylinders, so he must be burning up a lot of fuel.
5th place race, Jimmy Johnson trying to pull down on Kurt Busch. Jamie McMurray went past Busch 2 laps ago to run 4th behind Stewart, Biffle, and Kenseth.
But you know, DW, last year pretty consistently on the higher speed racetracks, the Dodgers were the first cars to hit pit road on green flag stops.
Let's check with Dick.
Well, Mike, both of the Penske cars, Ryan Newman and Kurt Busch, both of them have gone tight, and they're going to have to adjust those cars and try to get them back in contention again. Jeff Burton, who was an early contender, also dropping back. His car is also tight. So it's pretty consistently what we're hearing on pit road.
Jeff Burton has fallen back to 10th, and Ryan Newman, teammate to the 2 of Kurt Busch, has dropped all the way to 23rd.
Well, I think what's happened with those cars going tight, meaning they're turning the steering wheel and the front end is just sliding. I think the track's actually cooling down just a little bit, which will make the car go tight. Plus, I talked about a full fuel run. They burned all that fuel off the rear of the car. It's gained nose weight, which makes it tight.
Darrell, this is what we talked about at the top of the show, how your car works at the start of a long run and what you've got to do to maintain pace, if not improve it, as you get toward the end of a run.
Well, the good news is it's a 500-mile race, so you're going to get a lot of chances to adjust on it, and we're going to go through a number of changes here condition-wise. It's all in the driver's hands, what he tells the crew chief and what adjustments he needs.
9th place driver is Reed Sorensen, the 20-year-old from near Atlanta, Georgia, one of Chip Ganassi's young promotions to the Nextel Cup circuit, the other being David Stremme. Stremme in the 40. Here's Sorensen in the Energizer, number 41. He restarted 17th. He has now moved to 9th.
Yeah, he started back in the 29th position, DW.
Yeah, kid's got a lot of talent. I think he's got a really, he's going to do really good in this series.
Yeah, he was the 1997 quarter midget national champion, and he was not very old in 1997.
No, he's a young man now, so he's got a lot to look forward to. And Chip, I think Chip's done a good job of turning his program around. You know, with Mears having the success he's having, got Sorensen here and Stremme. I think he's doing a good job getting his program turned around.
Matt?
And that 41 car having a good run, Mike. Also, his crew chief, Jimmy Elledge, making note of the fact that we are now in cloud cover, so his driver be aware of how the track will change with the clouds out. But his driver also said that the car is good, but Reed said the brake pedal is going almost to the floor.
And Darrell, I will say, this high-speed racetrack, as I walked through the garage area this morning, I was shocked at how many brake duct hoses that these guys had on the front of the car cooling the brakes. We know also they're trying to cool the tire to keep the front air pressure down. A lot of brake ducts on these cars.
That's really hard for me to believe. I mean, it's a high-speed racetrack with, if we had our telemetry in, I don't think you'd see guys touching the brake maybe, but I can't imagine using a lot of brake.
These pit crews stand idle, but not for long. We'll be back for green flag pit stops. Tony Stewart leads Greg Biffle and Matt Kenseth in the Auto Club 500, presented by Q Motor Oil.
100 on Fox, presented by Q Motor Oil, is sponsored by Singular, raising the bar. By Team Chevy and the 303 horsepower Monte Carlo SS. Chevy, an American revolution. By Aaron's. Nobody beats Aaron's. Nobody. And by FedEx. Proud sponsor of Denny Hamlin and the number 11 race team. FedEx, every day is a race day.
76 laps complete, 174 to go, as it has clouded over here in Southern California. And that's a break for these fans, but it will have these pit crews guessing on their strategy. Here's Kevin Harvick in as green flag stops begin. David Stremme is in as well. Greg Biffle, the second place car, comes down pit road along with Dave Blaney. Matt?
And Greg Biffle started on the outside pole, making his way into his pit box. And like Dr. Dick mentioned earlier, the biggest pit boxes that we'll see all year. You can see the wedge wrench going in the back window. He said, I don't want a drastic change, though, because we keep going from sun to clouds, sun to clouds. Left side's going on. He's down and away to Steve Burns.
Matt, Carl Edwards leaves his pit. Their adjustment, they used air and down on the track bar to work on the handling of that 99.
Reed Sorensen also stopped. There's Sorensen top of your screen. Terry Labonte is in, and we expect Tony Stewart this time. Casey Kane on pit road. Jeff Gordon is in. Casey Mears. These are all green flag scheduled pit stops. Kenny Wallace, Dale Jarrett pitting. Kyle Petty is in. And Kenny Schrader. Here's Matt.
Jeff Gordon just in, pulled around the 96 of Terry Labonte. Now Steve Letarte told his driver, we need to get you better, just a little better on newer tires because we feel like we're decent on the old, making some headway. Air pressure adjustment, he's away. To Dick.
Tony Stewart on his way down pit road just moments ago. He told the crew that the car was exactly the way he liked it. It's better now than it was at the start of the race. So don't expect many changes on this automobile on this pit stop. Should be a nice clean stop with 4 tires, no wrenches in the back window, 2 full cans of fuel. Stewart all by himself, nobody in front to block him in. He's all alone, and there he goes.
Jeremy Mayfield in and out. Jeff Burton is in. Brian Vickers, Robbie Gordon. On the left of your screen, Denny Hamlin in the 11. Clint Boyer, Mark Martin, Ryan Newman. Elliott Sadler, who struggled today. Scott Riggs, Joe Nemechek, Brent Sherman in the pit lane.
Tell you what, Kurt Busch in that 2 car, he just hit pit road. He almost did not get stopped, or almost running over the back of Jamie McMurray in the 26 car right at the entrance.
He came on there pretty hot. I think he may have gotten it wound up in time.
Kevin LePage, Bobby Labonte, the Busch brothers, Jimmy Johnson. Matt.
And the 48, Jimmy Johnson in, already in work on the left side as Dale Earnhardt Jr. comes in as well. Now Jimmy told his interim crew chief, Darian Grubb, that the car is good. It needs to tighten up a little bit, but not as much as you tightened me up last time. He's away. Meanwhile, Dale Earnhardt Jr. in, going to work on the left side. And he's away as well to Steve.
Matt Kenseth hits his pit box to the attention of Robbie Reiser and their crew. He made no adjustments on the first stop. On this stop, they're going to add half a pound in the right rear and take half a pound out of the left rear. Matt Kenseth has gone all the way from 31st up into the top 5.
But most importantly, Kenseth stayed out long enough to lead a lap and pick up those bonus points.
And this is right there at that 45 to 50 lap window of fuel that we talked about at the top of the show. All these are routine green flag pit stops. Everyone changing 4 tires, dumping 22 gallons of fuel in the car, plus major adjustments on a lot of them.
Brian Vickers will get a pass-through penalty. Too fast exiting pit road.
And what pass-through means, he has to come back on the pit road, maintain 55 miles per hour. He does not have to stop in his pit box, but it's just like driving all the way down pit road at the pit road speed.
Either way, he's going to go a lap down because here comes the leader now, Tony Stewart. He's at the line right now, and Vickers is not at the end of pit road, so that's going to cost him dearly.
So we've completed the first green flag pit stop of the Nextel Cup season. All the Daytona 500 stops were under yellow, and we cycle through Tony Stewart, the defending series champion, back in the lead.
Lap 86, 164 to go in California. Time For a Visa race break, and Tony Stewart, who took over on lap 61, currently your leader from the Hollywood Hotel with Jeff Hammond. Let's talk a little bit about the pit stops we saw moments ago. Anything catch your eye that helps set the tone for the rest of this race?
Well, I'm seeing right now early on, Chris, is the fact that the 20 car got down on pit road like you needed to. Great stop by those guys. 13-4 followed by Matt Kenseth's guys at a 13-9. Good stops by these teams, but when you want to stay out front, you got to have solid work on pit road. But I also had an opportunity to take a look at the 48 car, and he had a lot of problems on pit road.
Jimmy Johnson, who is currently 8th, and a caution has come out as this is the pit stop.
The Jackman couldn't get the car off the ground, and if you watch the gentleman changing the right rear tire changer, he does his job, and when he gets up, you talk about anger and being upset with that kind of deal. Look at there, green flag stop. He knows you can't do that and win a race.
The Daytona 500 winner, now currently running 8th.
Yeah, right now we've heard that the cautions for debris out on the racetrack. Yeah, I think that's what they were saying just a second ago. So this right here is going to give some of these guys that had a bad pit stop an opportunity to kind of gain back up. And for a guy like Elliott Sadler, he's probably breathing a sigh of relief.
This has been a Visa race break, and no matter what life takes a Visa. Let's check in now with Steve Burns.
Well, Chris, listening to Jamie McMurray, his car had gone from loose to tight. In fact, when the caution came out, he said, that's terrible. We need to make some big air pressure adjustments. So crew chief Jimmy Fennig's going to make some adjustments to that 26. They're coming back to pit road.
Well, Tony Stewart said his car is just a little bit on the free side, and they decided to let the crew chief, Greg Zipadelli, decide if they were going to re-pit the car or not. Zippy said, bring it on in. They're going to put 4 new tires on it, despite the fact that Tony was happy with it. Down pit road, Kurt Busch had a great pit stop last time around, 12.6. They adjusted both the air pressure and the wedge. Matty.
Greg Biffle, the 16, runs in the 2nd position now. His car is on the tight side. He's hoping the sun comes back out, because we talked earlier how his car was loose and it was tight. They're battling the weather issue. They're going to make an air pressure adjustment on the stop as their guys are up on the wall. And you mentioned earlier, Mike, about the 25 Speedy. He was one of the guys on the pace lap that could not get a consistent tack reading because he said the pace car wasn't running a consistent speed.
Well, that's what caught him. Looks like most of the lead lap drivers are coming in following the leader, Tony Stewart.
Yeah, this early in the race, not a surprise, even though it's only been 10 laps since they were on pit road. You can see right here, Tony Stewart in the 20, Greg Biffle in the 16, Matt Kenseth in the 17, already out, and Carl Edwards in the 99.
You saw Michael Waltrip come in with those leaders, and for raising the hood, he is laps down, wasn't eligible to pit, but he's got problems. And gas is done on Tony's car, a little long with the left rear as Matt Kenseth leads the race off pit road ahead of Kurt Busch, and a long stop for Stewart, who came into the pits as the race leader. He's going to come out, I believe, outside the top 10.
Well outside the top 10. Yeah, as quick as Matt Kenseth made it off pit road, it looks like that Robbie Reiser may have rolled the dice with only about 8 or 10 laps on those tires and went with just 2 right side tires. We'll find out.
Good call.
I don't think that's a bad call right here. Get out there, get that track position, get out front in that clean air.
Well, when you started as far back as he did, and now you are up front on a call like this, I'm all for it. I think it's a great job.
There it is right there. That tells the tale, but what a close call, because Michael Waltrip in the 55 was trying to get into his pit box as Kenseth was leading.
Kenseth had every reason, he and Robbie Reiser there, to expect that pit stall would be empty because the car pitting in front of them was not a lead lap car.
Didn't work out that way, though.
The Auto Club 500 on Fox, presented by Q Motor Oil, is sponsored by DLP Picture Technology from Texas Instruments, by Napa Auto Parts. Napa, get the good stuff. By Visa, go on, live life, and remember that no matter what it takes, life takes Visa. And by Allstate, official partner of NASCAR.
Racing always has lots of new technology, and Nextel now has NASCAR Fan View. You can rent these units and the accompanying headphones at the track. Watch onboard video of your favorite driver, watch the television feed, listen to driver audio, and punch in all kinds of neat statistics. And these are available at the track on a race-by-race basis. Sunoco loaned me one for the Daytona 500. We played with it. It's pretty cool. You can learn things like this. The point standings with the running positions as they are right now. NASCAR Nextel Fan View. Next step in enjoying your at-the-track experience.
Speaking of experience, this is when it gets exciting on a restart here, because this is later on in the race, and all those cars on the inside, they are one or more laps down, so it's like a double file restart like we had at the start of the race. All the lead lap cars to the outside.
Yeah, we'll see a little three-wide racing here now. It'll get a little hectic. Got to be careful on these restarts.
Matt Kenseth leads them down to the green. Kurt Busch, Greg Biffle, Carl Edwards, and Ryan Newman. The first 5 on the outside lane.
Kurt Busch in the 2 gets a good run on the high side on Matt Kenseth. Remember, he has 4 tires. Matt Kenseth in the 17 has those 2 right side tires.
Look at that mess. Holy cow.
Tony Stewart lost 14 positions on pit road. What happened there, Dick?
Just a whole pile of things that happened on pit road. It started with Jeff Chandler, the front tire changer. He just plain missed the lugs on the right front, slow coming around to the other side of the car. Then Jody Fortson, the rear carrier, got his hand caught somehow or another within the car. Right now, Fortson has his hand stuck in the team cooler, trying to ease the pain on his fingers. So a bad stop. I bet if Tony Stewart had that to do all over again, he'd have stayed out rather than making that pit stop, Mike. To Steve.
Well, Dick, Carl Edwards said that his car was just a little bit too free at the start of that run, but he also told crew chief Bob Osborne that the car was coming to me. So what they did was just to make a small air pressure adjustment, half-pound in both left side tires. Mike?
Boy, Matt Kenseth is making that strategy look pretty good as he rocketed right past Kurt Busch to retake the lead.
Yeah, those rights had to catch up with the lefts, or the lefts had to catch up with the rights, whichever way.
The air pressure,
exactly.
Yeah. The air pressure was down on those right sides they put on the car, and it took probably a lap and a half for them to come in. But now Kurt Busch in the 2 has his hands full with Matt Kenseth's teammate Greg Biffle in the 16 for second.
Matt Kenseth, last lap. Wow, 39.67, his best lap of the race.
And you can bet one thing, and Larry and Jeff know this. Every crew chief on pit road is saying, whoa, 2 tires. Not a bad way to go.
He was the guinea pig.
Yeah. They were all saying, let's see what happens. Now they're saying, oh, boy.
Well, I'm thinking with the track having cooler temperatures, that certainly helps be able to adjust to 2 right side tires. Has more grip.
Let's get some other pit stop updates. Here's Matt.
Now, Mike, we already told you about the air pressure adjustment they were making to Greg Biffle's car. Now, he looked up in the mirror at one point under caution and saw that the 99 Carl Edwards was there, and he asked Doug Richard. Now, did Carl get up there by running the high side, wondering if he, like a lot of other guys, had moved up to the high side as the track continuing to change? They were chasing the track. He says, no, they just had a great pit stop. But he also came on the rear and said, you know what? It looks kind of like the old days when you look up at the scoring pylon. And when you look up at the pylon, it was like all the old Roush guys. It was Biffle, Kenton, Kurt Busch, Carl Edwards, and the 6 of Mark Martin.
And that would be a jack attack.
Stewart trying to regain ground lost on pit road, battling Jeff Gordon for 11.
Jeff Gordon has led the most laps at this racetrack. I think it's 410 laps he's led here. You know how many he's led in the last 6 times here? 1. So this place has not been good to him since early on.
You can see Tony Stewart wave his left hand out the window. Thank you for a little give and take right there early in the race. Remember, these 2 at Daytona, there wasn't a lot of give and take early in the race over in turn 2.
That's right. They got together, knocking Gordon's car out of alignment and damaging the aero on Stewart's car just a little bit. But you're right, that was early on.
But I like what Jeff said. He said, you know, we could both take a little blame there. That wasn't like pointing fingers at each other. I could have lifted, he could have let me in, so forth. So that's racing, good hard racing.
Now let's take a look at Ryan Newman in the 12 car here. Remember, he started this race in 11th position. He was just about to go a lap down when that last caution came out, but Matt Borland, his crew chief, elected to go with 2 right side tires, try to get that track position with some adjustments. He's up there in the 6th position now.
Riding with Casey Kane right behind Newman, both in Dodges.
Got one in an Intrepid and one in a Charger.
6th place battle. The Dodge Charger, new last year, is the body style and designed around an aero package that's no longer used. NASCAR trimmed 1 inch off the top of the rear spoiler, and that made the Dodge Charger a little unsettled.
And NASCAR doesn't care which one you run. You can run anything within a 3-year period. So this year you can run the 04, the 05, or the 06.
Yeah, they just feel like that the balance of the car is much better with the Intrepid, and the Charger down on the inside, the Intrepid on the outside. Very similar, but just a little bit of difference in arrows.
Our Dodge is trying to charge to the front. They're the first 3 of them in the race. Busch, Newman, and Casey Kane. 100 laps next time by, 150 to go, as Kurt Busch, who started from the front row, currently runs in 3rd.
All right, Kurt, I'm trying to fix my radio here. I got a big antenna attached now. Can you copy? 10-4, you sound like $1 million. Thanks for the 2 tires. Appreciate it. Can you hear me? Oh, yeah. I can hear you fine.
It's Roger. Talk to him on the front straighter. Then we can hear you loud and clear, and also him.
Yeah, 10-4, Roger. You heard me. I got a bigger antenna attached now. Yeah, 10-4. I got you now, Roy. Hey, I'll take a water bottle next pit stop.
All right, the last voice was driver Kurt Busch, crew chief Roy McCauley, and Roger Penske, the car owner.
And I think the problem, pit road here, it has suites right behind it. And that was Roy McCauley saying, I'm away from the little antenna on my headset. I now have went to an antenna that extends up above the pits. It would be like those yellow poles right there you see right there. That's what he had to go to, because I think he was getting interference from those suites when Kurt was on the back stretcher down in the corners.
Communication so important at over 180 miles an hour. From the pit to the car to the spotter up on the roof, all part of a winning effort. Greg Biffle out in front of teammate Matt Kenseth by 1.3 seconds. Kurt Busch a light distance behind.
Fox, glad to have you with us from California. Our kickoff to the season, and Jack Roush Ford's 4 of the top 5 spots. Greg Biffle currently leading with Matt Kenseth right behind, and there is Biffle in his 16 car. From the start, we had only a couple of leaders the first 50 laps. Kurt Busch was on the pole, but Biffle passing him to lead 53 of the first 59 laps at about 185 miles per hour. 34-year-old Tony Stewart from Indiana working his way to pass Biffle. And Tony led for about a 28-lap stretch. Matt Kenseth, who started 31st, had to work his way up through the field, passing guys like Jimmy Johnson to get back up to the top and actually lead for a portion of the race. Again, currently running second. As we have gone 107 laps and 143 to go.
Looking pretty strong right there. As Darrell likes to say, the Jack attack. Greg Biffle up front. Teammate Matt Kenseth, Carl Edwards second and third. And old man Mark Martin fifth. And Jamie McMurray, the newcomer to the block, round out the position in number 8.
And the guy kind of swapped positions. Kurt Busch in that 2-car, Rusty's 2-car, Rusty's old ride. Carl Edwards currently running 3rd. And important for him to have a big race and a good run here after what happened last week to him at Daytona.
Yeah, he was the first car out at Daytona. So this team right here is kind of finding themselves in a hole. And a solid run today will really help them kind of get back on track. And you got to understand, Chris, you can give it up in big chunks, but you're probably not going to get it back in big chunks. So it's going to be one race at a time. And these guys are going to climb their way back up the points this year.
Kind of a ping-pong day for Ryan Newman. He dropped out beyond 20, then he got inside the top 10. Now he's currently running 10th. And Casey Kane, another Dodge up in the top 10.
Yeah, right now looking at Casey Kane, he actually put down the fastest lap as far as the guys on that last lap right there. Good strong run for him and Ray Evernham's Dodge. But yeah, you pointed out Ryan Newman. Hey, it's good to see him kind of rallying his way back up here in the top 10 right now.
That's rejoined Darrell Waltrip, Larry McReynolds, and Mike Joy.
17 laps to halfway here in Fontana, the 3rd major NASCAR track to be built in Southern California. Riverside International Raceway, a road course just to the east of here, and only a couple of miles west. Ontario Motor Speedway was a 2.5-mile replica of Indianapolis and operated Cup and IndyCar races for many years. Kenseth in second, trailing Greg Biffle by 1 second. As Roush cars occupy the first 3 spots. We're not far from the House of Mouse. Could this place become the House of Roush?
Yeah, there's the other one right there. Carl Edwards in the 99 car. You heard Jeff Hammond talk about dead last at Daytona. He's trying to make a strong recovery here. And there's a graduate from the University of Roush right there. Kurt Busch drove for Jack the last 5 years, moving on to Penske Racing in the 2 car. He's in 4th right now.
Yeah, you said Candy. I think he already has.
And Mark Martin, the longtime leader at Roush Racing, who retired at the end of last year, unretired because Jack needed a driver for his number 6 car this year.
And Jeff Gordon's on the screen here. I said in the last 6 races, in the last 3 races.
Battery bad.
Battery trouble for Jeff Gordon.
And these teams most teams carry a secondary battery, and it sounds like what Jeff did is flipped over to the secondary battery, and it seems like that maybe fixed the problem. He must have seen the voltage going down. And
like battery too. Let's check the air conditioner, everything off. Make sure we got an alternator. Shut everything off.
And what Steve Letarte, his crew chief, is telling him, cut everything off you don't need, like your helmet blower or anything else. Let's make sure your alternator's charging, which is what the volt gauge will tell him.
Yeah, and I said the last 6 races. The last 3 races, he's only led 1 lap. Because he won here in 2004, and he led quite a bit. Is that correct? Wrong again?
Only 4 drivers have led this race today. There's a look at the gauges on the dashboard. The big one is the tachometer showing the engine speed.
And you'll see all the little ones right there. One of them would be oil pressure, oil temperature, water temperature, and one of those would be a volt gauge. And you normally want about 13.5, 14 volts on that gauge.
Gordon continues to run laps in the 42-second range. That's about 4/10 behind what the leader is running, but it is still competitive pace. Next Sunday we'll be at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City with the NASCAR Busch Series. And here comes Stewart. 7th place, working on Kurt Busch for 6th.
And it's probably going to take him this whole run to recover from those problems on pit road.
Dick Berggren in Stewart's pit with an update.
Well, I've been watching his lap times, Mike, and lap after lap, Tony Stewart has had the fastest car on the racetrack. He's been on the radio asking where other people are running. He's not satisfied with being the fastest. He wants to go still faster.
Couple of near misses today involving Tony Stewart. First, while racing Greg Biffle. Some time ago, Stewart's car slides up, and he has to wiggle it just a bit to stay off of Biffle. And just about 10 laps ago, Darrell, the car slides up almost into the path of Jamie McMurray.
Yeah, it looks like he's got his hands full right now.
But that was almost in the same place right there on the exit of turn 4.
And here was the problem on pit road while changing the left side tires. The rear tire changer still has his hand in the fender well when the car comes down off the jack.
Yeah, he's locating the tire up in there, and I guess he didn't get his hand out quick enough.
Just remember, these guys are trying to change 4 tires and up 22 gallons of fuel in about 13.5 seconds.
So Stewart, a leader of this race for 28 laps. He's led twice and now is in 6th place and rebounding. He is the first Chevrolet in the race behind the 5th place Dodge of Casey Kane and the 4 Roush Fords at the front.
The Auto Club 500 on Fox is presented by Q Motor Oil, the heat-activated oil that helps maximize the power of your engine. Unleash all your horses.
I won't know what to do with it. You're having a bad
day when your spare tire blows out.
Now, cut it.
Evidently, y'all must have stopped and picked him up, though.
If only life imitated art. 121 laps complete, 4 laps from halfway. Here's our KFC race summary. Only 4 different leaders, Biffle, Stewart, Busch, and Kenseth. 10 lead changes and only 2 caution flags, both for debris, for 8 laps. 27 cars were on the lead lap until just now, when Casey Mears peeled off and brought the Haviland Dodge to pit road. And Stewart smoked from his car in turn 4, headed for pit road.
This is a little bit early right here.
Well, I think they're saying he's got a tire, maybe.
Yeah, he looks like it may be a left front, possibly, Darrell.
Stewart restarted 15th and climbed all the way to 4th. Left front tire trouble for Stewart. Dick?
That's exactly it, Mike. He had radioed to the crew just moments ago that he had a tire going down. He diagnosed it as a left front, and indeed, as he comes down pit road, there is no air in the tire. The tire is on the inner liner, and that's it. Moments before that, he had radioed the crew and asked if anybody minded if he broke up that little Roush party in front of him. It was all Roush cars all the way to the lead. Now he's going to have to start in the back and pass car after car to try to win this race. To that.
Dick, down in the 42 pit, Mike Brill and the Haviland guys looking over the tires that came off Casey Mears' car. They believe they've got a flat, possibly a cut tire. Goodyear engineers down here as well. They believe possibly contact with another car. We'll give you more information when they get their diagnosis.
But for Casey Mears and especially Tony Stewart, I think where they are lucky here, we're within about 8 to 10 laps of that green flag stop. Now, they need this to cycle through these green flag stops. But the biggest thing, Darrell, it happened at a point of the racetrack they could get to pit road without tearing that fender up.
Yeah, he lost some time, but it was not disastrous. So he's not in terrible shape, Tony, I'm talking about.
Dick?
Well, Tony Stewart just came on the radio and told the crew that they shouldn't get rattled about this, that they've got plenty of time to get the job done. They got a great car, just stay with it.
Stewart and Mears are now both 1 lap down as you look at the remains of the tire off the Home Depot number 20, left front. And here's our leader, Greg Biffle, putting a lap on Kenny Wallace.
And that's what you want to hear the driver say, you know, pump the crew back up, because they got down, they got discouraged, but he said, don't worry, guys, I'll get it back. When Tony Stewart says, I'll get it back, he will.
And honestly, what in the perfect world, what Tony Stewart needs with that 20 team is to cycle through these green flag stops and then hopefully get a caution. It will put them back on sync, because right now he's going to be out there running about a second a lap faster. Just look how he drives by Jimmy Johnson in the 48 on those fresh tires.
Stewart's last lap nearly as quick as race leader Greg Biffle. Let's get out of Chris and Jeff at our Ford Cutaway Car for a State Farm safety update.
And Mike, there's a lot riding on your tires. Now, the tires in this race, NASCAR has allowed certain things that help the cooling and protection of these tires, and Jeff will help illustrate that.
Yeah, Chris, first thing is right now, this is the inner liner tire that goes inside the tire. In the event you have a tire go down, it helps you get back to pit road safely. But one of the key things about a tire you want to make sure you protect is the inside bead close to the brakes. You don't want this bead to fail during the course of a race. And to help that, NASCAR has allowed the team to put what they call blowers. This is one of the blowers that Larry McReynolds was talking about earlier, that's mounted up underneath the nose of the race car, pulls air in, and then it's blown in this area right here, close to the brake, to keep it cool. You can see this is where the rim and the bead sit so close to the brake caliper, and that's where sometimes the temperature will come from. NASCAR has determined that to make sure you keep these guys safe, you also have an ability to blow this air in here to keep it cooler so that you don't have a problem in the event of too much heat.
And moments ago, we saw Tony Stewart come into the pits right where we are, Jeff, with that left front tire problem.
Yeah, he did have a left front tire problem. I believe he may have run over something on the racetrack, but that's where, Chris, the safety interliner really came into play.
One of the crew chief members said they have 8 sets of tires for today. They hope that's enough. It's been a safety report from the Ford Cutaway car, right?
Thanks, Chris. 127 laps. We're just past halfway.
One of the changes for the tires here this year is a softer left side sidewall. And so you let the air air pressure down and they've got a little sidewall change, you can tear that tire up. And particularly these crew chiefs, and Larry and Jeff know this, they get more and more aggressive with the air pressure as the race goes along.
That green 18, for 11 years we've seen Bobby Labonte in that car for Joe Gibbs Racing. J.J. Yaley took a big load on his shoulders, moving up to Cup and stepping into this car. And early in this season, he's doing a heck of a job.
Sitting there running in 6th position. He was caught up in someone else's wreck at Daytona, had a great qualifying run, and he's been in the top 10 for most of this race.
Right behind him, Jamie McMurray in 7th. Kind of an up and down day, but has hung around the top 10 most all day. Dodges and 1 lone Chevrolet, which would be Yaley, fill the top 10 right now as we come up on 130 of 250 laps in the Auto Club 500 presented by Q Motor Oil. 133 laps. Greg Biffle leads Mark Martin by almost 7 seconds now. Martin has moved his AAA Ford into 2nd. Tony Stewart has been running 0.7 of a second faster than Biffle after having to make an unscheduled pit stop. So new tires are of value, and the first of the lead lap cars to pit under this green flag run, Kevin Harvick, has been on and off pit road with 4 tires. Our next singular virtual crew chief question: will Greg Biffle complete the Busch Cup sweep today? It's never been done at California. Yes or no? Text the word crew to 191 on your singular wireless phone, or go to foxsports.com, and you'll also be entered for a chance to win Jeff Burton's payday at the Pepsi 400.
Now pit road's really getting busy with his green flag stops. Jimmy Johnson in the 48, Reed Sorensen in the 41. Matt Yoakum starting to make these green flag stops.
The leaders are all hitting pit road on their cycle here. The 48, Jimmy Johnson. And now the last stop, Larry Mack, they made a wedge adjustment. He says, though, it's still a little edgy, waiting for Greg Biffle to come in about another lap. His guys are up on the wall. Meanwhile, Jeff Gordon's guys are up on the wall as well.
Reed Sorensen has been in and out in the target car. Here comes Jeff Gordon with Kyle Busch down pit road. And Robbie Gordon as well.
Bobby Labonte in the 43 car hits pit road, gets her woed down.
Here's Matt.
And Jeff Gordon said the wedge and air pressure adjustment they made on that great Chip Foose paint job did not help. It's still way too tight. Going to make another air pressure adjustment. They can go about another 40 minutes or so on this backup battery. Meanwhile, Greg Biffle trying, as Mike Joy mentioned, going for the weekend sweep. The 24 is away. Biffle won't have to worry about him pulling out as he makes his way into his box. Looking for a wedge adjustment as well as an air pressure. Biffle said the car, which had been tight most of the race, has gone to the loose side, especially uneasy entering down into turn 1 and turn 3. Going to work on the left side. Solid stop so far for the Biff. He's away.
Jeff Burton is in. Scott Wimmer, Brian Vickers, Kurt Busch, Dale Jarrett, and back in is Reed Sorensen, who was missing a lug nut after his stop. Kenny Schrader, Jeff Green's in, Ryan Newman, David Stremme, Jeremy Mayfield, Kevin LePage making stops, Casey Kane, Carl Edwards comes in right with Matt Kenseth. Dick?
Well, the original plan for the guy who had won the pole, Kurt Busch, was the short pit, come in earlier than other people. Remember, he only took 2 tires on that last pit stop, but he waited. Steve?
Matt Kenseth in the 17 in. You see Mark Martin in the 6. This is the kind of race that Mark Martin wanted. His crew chief Pat Trice had said this morning, we'll get better as this race goes. Matt Kenseth did a great job on 2 tires. This time they put on 4. No other adjustments.
All of the Roush cars pitted on that lap, all 5 of them. Elliott Sadler is in. So is Dave Blaney and rookie Denny Hamlin. Coming out on the left of your screen, rookie J.J. Yaley coming in. Terry Labonte's in as well.
And J.J. Yaley in the 18 car, he stayed out to lead a lap to get those 5 points.
Rookie Clint Boyer pits on this lap. Scott Riggs, Kyle Petty.
8 cars in.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. He was not far from going a lap down before he made this pit stop.
Matt?
Making his way down to the butt guys. You can already see one of the crew members with a wedge wrench in his hand. The catch cam man going to make a chassis adjustment. They pull a tear off the front windshield. comes around to the left side. Also, Tony Eury Jr. watching over, and he is away.
And during this cycle of stops, J.J. Yaley led a lap, and Mark Martin became the 6th different lap leader today. Stanton Barrett down on the apron in the hair of the dog. Chevrolet coasting in, perhaps out of fuel.
May have tried to stretch it just a little too far.
You know, I was watching the 2 car. He's been getting on pit road really, really well today. He come in hot, and the 41 car was right in his way. The 41 car is kind of almost like he's baiting him up here. If Kurt in the 2 car should pass the 41 car, he'd be penalized. And the 41's leaving him room to go by, but smart thinking on Kurt's part, he just follows him down through there until he fades off into his pit box. So you got to be patient, even on pit road. That was a rookie that almost led you to make a mistake.
Yeah, because Kurt has to travel the entire distance of pit road because his pit box is at the very exit of pit.
Martin Truex and Joe Nemechek making pit stops. Stanton Barrett gets fuel and gets back on track. And Sterling Marlin comes in as this round of green flag stops continues to cycle through with Greg Biffle back to the lead.
And what this has also done, this has put Greg Biffle leading the race, and it puts Tony Stewart in second. He's about 4 3/4 seconds behind. Remember, he had to pit about 10 laps earlier because of that flat left front. I think the difference right here is the time lost Tony getting to pit road with that flat tire.
But what's going to happen now, Larry, as you well know, everybody's going to start ganging up on him with the newer tires, him on older tires. He'll fade, and the rest of them will come forward.
I think there's 2 people that would love to see a caution now. Tony Stewart to get back on sync. Sounds like possibly Jeff Gordon and Steve Letarte to change that battery.
Let's find that out from Matt.
Absolutely, the 3-time winner, Jeff Gordon. Now, Steve, do you have your game plan? I know you're looking for a caution to change that battery.
Yeah, we've had a little trouble, I think, with the alternator. The battery's going dead. And all we can do now is ride it out and hope for a caution. You know, the guys here on the DuPont Chevy done a great job all day. And, you know, we're proud to carry that hot Hughes, and we're just doing our best. A little slow on new tires, but it's good on a long run.
Now, he was 13th when he hit pit road for a stop. Now, he's got probably about another 30 minutes left on this battery. Now, Jeff Hammond, when they get that caution, take us through the process of how they're going to change that battery.
What they're going to try to do, they'll come down pit road like a normal pit stop, hopefully under caution. They'll pull the right rear tire off. They'll reach in. This will be the battery box right here. They'll undo the 4 cam locks, hold it in place. They'll open it up, disconnect it, pull it out, just like so. Reinstall another one, hook everything back up, and then close it back up, and he'll be able to go on and possibly finish the race. Now, the Steve Letarte, and we're talking about the problem. Here's the alternator that's located on the engine. This is what actually makes the power back into the battery, feeds it, helps to keep it stored back up. Probably what's happened is this belt has probably broken. And when that happens, you lose the ability to spin this alternator and produce power back to the battery. And that's what the problem is right now. The ignition of these cars takes a lot of energy to keep them running properly.
Thanks, Jeff. Gordon is, let's see, where's Jeff right now? 13th place. 22 seconds off the lead, held by this man, Greg Biffle. Top of the show, Darrell Waltrip said, if there's one man here who could stink it up, well, be glad you don't have smell-o-vision, because Biffle right now is 8 seconds ahead of this battle as Mark Martin takes 2nd place away from Tony Stewart.
Tony will start to have, you know, his tires will go away quicker than these other guys, and he'll start falling back through the field a little bit. He'll have to pit early.
He also lost a position to Matt Kenseth, Mark Martin's teammate in the 17 car.
So the round 4s are back to 1, 2, 3 in the Auto Club 500, presented by Q Motor Oil on Fox.
The Auto Club 500 on Fox, presented by Q Motor Oil, is sponsored by McDonald's. By Sunoco, official fuel of NASCAR. Without Sunoco, there'd be no race day. By Tylenol. Tylenol Extra Strength Rapid Release Gels. Team Tylenol. Think fast. And by Toyota. Choose any direction as long as it's forward. Toyota, moving forward.
100 laps to go here. We may finish under the Hollywood lights, and the last 2 Hollywood nights, the bright lights have been on the Roush drivers. Mark Martin left, the truck winner, and Greg Biffle, the Busch winner. Common denominator, the cat in the hat, Jack Roush in victory lane, looking to make it 3 for 3 today. Here are your Q Motor Oil front runners. Greg Biffle has led 103 of 149 laps. Tony Stewart and Matt Kenseth, the top 3 of 6 drivers to lead laps today.
So Greg Biffle is real close to locking up those 5 additional bonus points for leading the most laps of the race.
And what makes that impressive is it's not just one car, it's not just 2 cars, it's all his cars are running up front and winning races.
Kind of like 2005.
Yeah, just like it's all over. Deja vu again, all over again.
Greg Biffle, the Jackson Hewitt National Guard Ford. That's the National Guardsman of the Year. Yet to be determined, but that's whose face will be on the hood of Biffle's car. That's what they're promoting. Last year in the 2 Nextel Cup races here, Biffle's finishes 1st and 2nd.
Well, he's not hurting his average right now.
He is 10 seconds in front of teammate Matt Kenseth, right there with Mark Martin, as he trying to lap Sadler.
You know, I'm going to tell you what, though, the one guy that has snuck up on this bunch, we talked about him a little ago, we're riding with Casey Kane. He started back in 13th. He's sitting there in the 4th position. Now, he's working with a new crew chief this year, Kenny Francis. Tommy Baldwin left and went to Yates Racing, but this is that Dodge Charger. This is the car that this group struggled with last year, but I know a lot of testing over the winter. Looks like they maybe have got this thing figured out in race trim.
Boy, that baby's right now, Larry. He's running 4th, and he's moved up through there, and he's looking good.
Casey Kane in 4th, Carl Edwards in 5th. Steve Burns has both their pits.
Thanks, Mike. Casey Kane finished 2nd here in September of 2004. Now you see Kane in the 9. There's Carl in the 99. Their cars both have the same handling characteristics right now. They're both just a little tight in the center of the corners. It just doesn't want to turn that well in both race cars.
And just remember, tight is when they go down in the corner, they turn the steering wheel, but the car really doesn't turn with the steering wheel. But I think one reason these cars are starting to get tight, we've been talking about the weather, we've been talking about the cloud covering, and the ambient temperature has not changed that much, but it's the track temperature that has cooled down from about 93 degrees to the mid-80s. That gives the car more grip, but it also makes the car a little tighter, a little pushier.
Darrell, this track is so wide. How much can changing your line through the corners affect the handling and work through a push or help a car that's loose?
Oh, that's huge. I mean, anytime your car goes through some kind of weird change and you're not prepared for it, or the car's not reacting like you want it to, you got to search around. You got to listen to your spotter. So-and-so's running really quick around the top. Try that. Run the bottom. You just run a few lines here, and they give you lap times to tell you, okay, that's better. Run there.
In Greg Biffle's case, there is just about any place he wants.
Well, right now, it's right on that white line, and, of course, that's the fastest, best place to run. Shortest distance around this joint is right around the bottom.
Our last singular virtual crew chief question, can Greg Biffle do the double at California this weekend? You said no, by a margin of 5-3.
He's working pretty hard on it right now with about 96 laps to go, but a couple more pit stops to make.
Let's go to the leaders pit. Matt Yoakum.
Mike, part of that 62% who says Biffle won't sweep the weekend may not be happy to know that the car is good. He says they feel like they've fixed the issue that he had on entry, where it was too free on entry. His other big concern, though, he was wanting to know if the guys trying to chase him down were caught up in traffic, meaning, you know, his teammates, Matt Kenseth and Mark Martin, whether they were dealing with lap cars that may give the Biff a little bit of an advantage on the racetrack, and his spotter, Joel Edmonds, said, nope, they have clean air just like you do. Nick?
In 2003, Tony Stewart led 100 laps here at the California Speedway, but the engine broke while he was leading. Today, the problem, a flat left front tire while he was in contention in 5th position. Right now, he has slipped back to his 6th spot, and an exchange over the radio between he and crew chief Greg Zipadelli, perhaps done so the entire crew could hear them. Stewart said, not to worry about a thing. The car's balance is just right. We've got a shot. We're going to be fine. Zipadelli came back and affirmed the same. These guys absolutely are not going to give up. They believe in themselves, and they're hearing the right stuff from both driver and crew chief.
They have the confidence of coming off a championship season in 2005. Mark Martin has gone past his Roush teammate Matt Kenseth, and the AAA car is now P2, second place.
It's looser this run.
Oh, Bud, you want me to take a pound out of the right rear? 160, same as the leader.
I don't know. I was thinking about a little wedge in the left rear, 1/2 or 3/4.
And that's Pat Tryson bouncing one thing off of his driver, Mark Martin. Did he want to change? And I think Mark says, this is what the car really feels like more. This is what I think I'd rather do.
Yeah, if you screw down on that left rear just a little bit, that's putting wedge in. That's putting more pressure on that left rear tire. That will tighten the car up. Let a little air out of the right rear. It's going to soften the right rear tire.
And you know the reason he wants to put it in the left rear? It raises the back of the car, puts that spoiler up in the air as well.
Brian Newman goes a lap down, as does the number 1 of Martin Truex Jr., the last year's Busch Series champion.
That has to be discouraging for Ryan, because they wanted to run the Intrepid because they thought their problem was in the body of the Charger, and today they're not getting a result with the Intrepid either. So that's got to be real discouraging and confusing to those guys.
Dick?
Well, at least Ryan Newman has had a consistent problem all day long, Darrell, and that is that the car has pushed right from the beginning. It's just tight everywhere, and no matter what they have done to that car on pit stops, it has not loosened the number 12 up for Ryan Newman.
Well, what the contradiction to that would be, or the irony of that would be the fact when they built the Charger, it put more front downforce in the nose, which settles the nose down. That's the reason they started wanting to go back to this car, is to try to get the balance back, as you see Carl and Roger Penske there up on the spotter stand.
Well, I think something's going on, though, because even the 2 car now, Busch is all the way back to 14th. So those 2 cars are not performing in the middle part of the race here like they did in the beginning.
Long runs, adapting to changes in the track and track temperature. Roger Penske was a world-class sports car driver and then became a captain of industry. To this day, they call him the captain. Penske Speedways built and operated this racetrack, among others around the United States. As he tries to get his cars back to the front, Roger is hands-on with this and his other race teams. 86 laps to go in Fontana, California, as you ride with 2-time champion Terry Labonte in the Texas Instruments Chevy of Hall of Fame racing. Greg Biffle at 164 laps, your leader by a very steady 10.5 seconds over Mark Martin. But Matt, is all well in the Biffle camp?
His car is running about a 1/10 a lap faster than Mark Martin, but he came on the radio back on lap 159, Mike, and told his team that he believes he has some kind of problem with his car.
Hey, Matty,
I thought it was just me, but the motor's labored down the backstretch, like it's running out of gas.
And he said that the gauges are all fine. And then he came on 3 laps later, DW, and he asked his spotter, Joel Edmonds, what does the flag look like on the backstretch? Am I running into the wind? And his spotter said, absolutely.
Yeah, Matty, that's what I was going to tell you. I just was, when he said that, I've been going down the back straightaway here before you get those Santa Ana winds. It'll buff the front of the car around. It'll make the car kind of rear up and down a little bit, make the engine feel like it's not performing. I bet he's not complaining about it going down the front, though. It's definitely the wind.
No complaints down the front, DW, but he does say that the fuel pressure gauge is balancing. It's fluctuating between about 5.5 and 6 to 9, so that is giving him some concern.
And we talked about those gauges on the dash a while ago. They have a fuel pressure gauge in there, and it should probably reach somewhere around 6 to 7 pounds. And that sometimes can tell the driver if he's running out of gas, as the fuel pressure will start fluctuating.
And on the dash panel, that's probably the most inconsistent gauge you have. That sucker you want it to never go below 5 or 6, but it'll sit there and bounce all day long. So I don't think he's got a problem with anything. He's probably just running so good, leading the races. Man, hope nothing's going wrong.
Well, ever since he called in and asked that question, every lap since, Biffle has been the fastest car on the racetrack. So if he's got a problem, that's the kind of problem you want to have.
If he's got a problem, everybody else's is worse.
Greg Biffle has clinched the 5 bonus points for leading the most laps today. Mark Martin in a solid second, 11 seconds back, but unable to gain any ground on Biffle right now.
No, actually, Edwards and Carl Edwards is a little bit quicker than Mark, and Casey Kane's right there real close by. Those first 5 or 6 cars are all about the same speed other than Biffle.
Now, Tony Stewart, the 20 car running in the 5th position, had that left front tire going down a while ago. He should be coming to pit road here pretty quickly.
Here he
Looks
comes,
like he's going to hit pit road now about 10 laps shy of the leaders because that's when he had to pit earlier. 55 miles per hour here on pit road after being out there racing at over 180.
So Stewart's hope for a caution flag to put him back on sequence did not pay off for him. It'll be some time before the rest of the leaders have to make a green flag stop.
Now, we say 55 miles per hour. They do not have a speedometer in that car. They have to do it by RPM that they got under the pace laps. Dick Berger.
Well, Crew Chief Greg Zimbinelli asked his driver if there was anything they could do to the car on this pit stop to help him to make the car better. Stewart told him he had to be honest that the car was just right. Don't change anything at all. So he's got 4 fresh tires, and off he goes. And the entire crew that started this day is still working on the car despite that injury.
Casey Mears also in for 4 tires and fuel.
If you'll remember, he thought he had a tire problem the same time Stewart did. We got the report that there were no tire problems. That's the reason he's here on pit road. Now, what Casey Mears, Tony Stewart needs it to do again, just like a while ago, is cycle through these green flag stops. But pretty much, I think everyone wants to see a caution except this man right here, Greg Biffle, in the 16.
The last yellow flag was 81 laps ago. We've only had 2 today, both for debris. The first at lap 31, the second at lap 88.
Well, because the track's so wide and you get so strung out here, cautions are far and few between in the middle part of the race.
It's amazing. Pushing toward 400 miles in this race, all 43 cars that started this race are still running.
But don't forget about engine attrition. We get in the latter stages of this race.
4 Roush Fords in the top 5, along with the Dodge of Casey Kane.
The Auto Club 500 on Fox, presented by Q Motor Oil, is sponsored by UPS, proud sponsor of Dale Jarrett's 88 Ford. The Auto Club 500 presented by Q Motor Oil, delivered by UPS. UPS delivers the chance to win 2 tickets to any Fox broadcast race. Just go to foxsports.com, keyword UPS, and Jarrett up to 12th in this race with Jeff Hammond, Chris Myers, the Hollywood Hotel. It's time for a Visa race break. Greg Biffle leading with just 75 laps to go here in California. Mark Martin, Carl Edwards, and Casey Kane. Matt Kenseth rounding out the top 5. And Jeff, as we take a look and talk about pit stops anticipated here, only 2 caution flags so far, so it looks like green flag stops on the way unless something happens. How soon?
Well, probably about 8 to 10 more laps right now. The rest of the field will be coming down. We already know that the 20 cars made a pit stop. And talking about the 20 car, I mean, he's one of the guys who had problems in the pits already just today. The 48 car, Jimmy Johnson right there, a problem with the Jackman, Chris Anderson. And, I mean, the guys were really upset because it really took him, I think, out of a really good position early on. And all of a sudden you see on the 11 car, tire carrier right there, he goes down there, hard crash by him, but then the 20 car, Chris.
Yeah, Tony Stewart was leading, slow stop here, 16.7 seconds, fell 14 positions, then had to work his way back up toward the front. As you can see how long this pit stop seemed like it took forever. And then on lap 122, the left front tire, he drops to 28th, but Stewart worked his way back up to 4th, but is continuing to have problems as we look now. And this Visa race break, no matter what life takes Visa. And 3 Roush Fords. I know it sounds like we've TiVoed this remark here, but having teammates with you up front, you don't run against each other as much as you're working with each other?
Well, I mean, you won't get up there and, dog each other. Right now, Greg Biffle is way out in front of second place Mark Martin. But, I've worked with Jack Rouse before. As you can see right now, there's Dale Earnhardt Jr. right there. You can see Greg Biffle, the leader right now. He's closing up behind him, and, I mean, he's struggled all day long. He's never really quite got on pace like he'd like to. He's been hanging around about 18th to 20th all day long, but right now, that basically mediocrity is going to catch up with him because of the class of the field. Greg Biffle is catching up with him real quick. But going back to what I was going to say before about the Roush deal, he doesn't tell you how to race as long as you don't race, stupid. If you're up there racing each other too hard, he might get a little upset about that, but otherwise he lets you guys run your own race, and that's what he's doing right now. These teams are right now machines. They're making it happen. We see Greg Biffle go to the inside right there. Spotter lets you know as he goes underneath Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Biffle on a tear, trying to become the first driver to win at California from the front row.
One of the things about the Roush drivers, they all have the same race car. And so they all know what each other has. They know what adjustments that they're making in the pits, and that really helps all of them in the race. That sharing of information. They know the setups each car has. They know the race cars. It really helps them in the race.
There's Jack Roush right there.
Now watch Dale Jr. as Greg Biffle goes to lap him and gets close up underneath his rear spoiler here.
Fighting to stay on the lead lap. You can see the car gets a little bit loose, walks up the racetrack, and Greg Biffle in the 16 just drives by him.
That's one of those times when you look back to see where he is, and then you kind of walk up the hill, getting out of the way.
Is this the classic, he took the air off my rear spoiler?
I really think Junior might have just kind of glanced in the mirror to see where he is, and just for a second, and he lost a little bit of time, lost a little control there.
We are real close to this next set of green flag pit stops. We've already seen Tony Stewart on pit road. Here we see Reed Sorensen in the 41, Jimmy Johnson in the 48. This will be all scheduled stops. No one can make it from here, though, without stopping again, Matt Yoakum.
24 pits. And the 48, Jimmy Johnson on pit road. Now he said, I need help with forward bite. Don't tighten me up too much, though. His teammate Jeff Gordon will pit in about another lap and a half as Jimmy's down and away. His crew chief Chad Knaus watching the race on television. 2 more races left to go on his suspension.
Chad Knaus, unapproved adjustment in qualifying at Daytona, so he is away until Bristol in March. Carl Edwards was battling for third when he peeled off to hit pit road. Steve?
Mike, his car has gone to the tight side, so they're going to take half a round out of the right rear, that 99 of Carl Edwards, trying to bounce back from the Daytona 500 last place finish. Greg Biffle hits pit road.
Greg Biffle and Kyle Busch in the pit lane. Jeff Green completes his stop. Stanton Barrett in and out. Clint Boyer on pit road. So is Mark Martin, and here goes the leader in front of Matt.
And Biffle is in. Now, Greg said that he liked how the race car was running on this segment. They pulled the tear off the windshield to help the visibility, but no changes chassis or air pressure wise on the stop. A few extra pumps on the jack could prove costly. He is away to Steve.
Matt, same thing for Mark Martin. No adjustments whatsoever for that number 6 car. He said his car had gone neutral. He likes it. Dick.
J.J. Yaley is having the best weekend of his young Nextel Cup career. Qualified 4th. That's his best career start. Yesterday, 7th in the Busch race. They have only made a couple of adjustments on this race car. That was early in the event. After that, it's been so good, they haven't touched it. Yaley's group with a nice pit stop.
Matty, Jeff Knight already made a huge crank of wedge for Jeff Gordon. Left side's going on the car. Way too tight in the center, and he said it's way too free on exit.
Kurt Busch making his stop, as on the left of your screen, Casey Kane has become the 7th different driver to lead this race.
Matt Kenseth in the 17s on pit road.
A spin entering pit road. Denny Hamlin, the rookie, locked up the brake trying to enter pit road and spun. No caution as Hamlin gets back on the racetrack, but will have to come all the way around and try to pit again.
That's one of the hard things about this place. You come down there real hot. Here comes another car right behind him, and that's the 9 car, the leader. And it's just easy to do that right there, miss the end of pit road.
Yeah, the entrance of pit road is almost right in dead in the middle of turn 4.
Steve.
Mike, Casey Kane on pit road. They just made a wedge adjustment. The car had been a little bit loose. He likes it, but it is a little bit on the loose side.
Good stop, 13 seconds.
You got to be 55 mile an hour on pit road, but you can be 155 mile an hour getting to pit road.
Let's show you what happened to rookie Denny Hamlin.
He's just so lucky here he doesn't hit the end of this pit wall. Gets out wide, just gets a little late turning down.
In your own old tires, it's not gripping very good anyhow.
Hamlin now entering his pit. Scott Riggs, Kevin LePage, Kyle Petty, and Bobby Labonte are in.
I just think back to Daytona when he won the Bud Shootout and everybody bragged on how great a job he did getting on pit road. Only one that didn't smoke the tires. He had trouble at Daytona. He had to drive through his pits at Daytona and go around and come back in.
Kyle Petty having a strong top 20 run today for the Wells Fargo Dodge. He pits while running in 18th position and is back out. Dale Jr. is in. Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jeremy Mayfield, and Mike Garvey.
And Greg Biffle in the 16, we've completed the cycle. He's back in the lead right now over Tony Stewart, the 20 car, who has about 10 more laps on his tires than Greg Biffle.
Junior away in 14.5 seconds. 65 laps to go in the Auto Club 500, presented on Fox by Q Motor Oil. We're on record pace at Fontana, California in the Auto Club 500, presented on Fox by Q Motor Oil. Only 2 caution flags, both brief ones for debris. The least we've ever had here was 4. Race record 155 miles an hour in 1997. Right now, the race pace, including pit stops, 159 miles an hour, as Greg Biffle, driving the National Guard Ford, taking no prisoners, as he right now has a 5-second lead on Tony Stewart. One mishap on pit road in Joe Nemechek's pit. Keep an eye on Dave Weiss, who is the front tire carrier. He takes the tire back to the wall and then comes to either clean the grill or move a piece of tape on the front.
And they drop the jack, and that's Joe Nemechek's sign to go. You don't think it's dangerous on pit road, but old Dave pops up and back to get things ready again.
Upended, but okay. Nemechek is 2 laps back in 34th position right now.
Yeah, right now we only have 15 cars left on the lead lap. The last car on the lead lap right now is Kurt Busch in that 2 car, and he is only about 2 seconds away from being lapped by leader Greg Biffle.
Yeah, it just tells you how well Biffle's getting around this place right now. I mean, he's putting them down every time. He's just putting them down one after another.
This is Kevin LePage, the Vermonter, in the roadloans.com. Number 61.
The left side is closing. 2 back. Side.
Look at the right side of his car.
It's a piece of a valance that goes around the exhaust pipes on the right side. It's kind of part of the package that NASCAR puts on the car. It's just a piece of aluminum. If it could come off, certainly we would have a debris caution. As long as it stays attached, probably not really affecting the handling of the car.
No, it doesn't do much.
Back up front, Greg Biffle, 6.8 seconds up on Tony Stewart, and 14 seconds ahead of third place Mark Martin after this cycle of pit stops. The lead car in this race and the leader in what has been a great day so far for car owner Jack Roush, who has already been to victory lane Friday night in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race with Mark Martin, and yesterday in the NASCAR Busch Series Stater Brothers 300 with Greg Biffle behind the wheel. Steve?
Hey, Mike, we've caught up with car owner Jack Roush. Jack, you've got all 5 cars in the top 10, including the leader. How do you decide where to put your interest?
Well, you know, I don't really have anything to say about this. The guys are the crew chiefs are captains of their own ship. They're doing whatever they want to do. You know, there's a little bit of difference in strategies as far as who bets at the competitive run, who bets at the end, but it's strictly in the crew chief's hands right now, and I'm just hoping they don't run into one of them.
That's amazing.
Jack's cars first, third, fourth, sixth, and 10th. So chances are they'll be running in very close proximity at some time before this ends. And caution is out for the 3rd time today at lap 196. Debris in turn number 1.
Tony Stewart caught a real break there, Larry.
That's the caution he's been looking for, because it gets him back on sync with everyone. But what's interesting, teams cannot make it from here without stopping again.
And who is the first car one lap down to get the free pass? Not him. The number 8.
Yeah, Tony doesn't need it. He's sitting there in second place, so he's in good shape, but Dale Jr. sure did need it.
Now let's explain the free pass for the viewers that are just starting to watch NASCAR on Fox. For so many years, when the caution would come out, cars that were a lap down would race back to the finish line to try to beat the leader back there to get back on the lead lap. A couple of years ago, NASCAR stopped that for safety reason. When the caution comes out, the field is frozen. You are locked in your positions. But to still give teams an opportunity to get back on the lead lap, the first car that's behind the leader that's not on the lead lap, he gets to go around and get back on the lead lap. It's called the free pass or the lucky dog award.
I'm just wondering what's going on with Kurt Busch. Oh, there he goes. He was behind the he was in front of the leader when the caution came out. It's like they held him up for some reason. Now he's going, and he's going to go around and come up to the rear of the field because he was the next car to get lapped.
Yeah, the pace truck picked up Busch, and you're not allowed to pass that pace truck once it comes up on the racetrack unless you are waved around. So they waved him around. He'll come around, take up his proper position, and Dale Jr. will get waved around to get the free pass.
But we talked about a good break for Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Tony Stewart. It was a big break for Kurt Busch, as we just mentioned. He was about 2 seconds from going a lap down.
He's about a car length when that caution came out.
43 cars started and 43 are running. The last time we had a Nextel Cup type race with no DNFs, did not finish it. September 1996, North Wilkesboro, North Carolina, all 37 cars were running at the finish.
Now let's just remember our keys to the race, our strategy. I've got to believe, Darrell, everyone here with about 54 laps to go, they will take 4 tires. This could lead to some strategy at the end of the race, maybe fuel only, if it stays green. Steve Burns.
Mark Martin, no adjustments on the last stop. This time he says he wants just half a round down in the left rear. Car's a little bit tight for Mark Martin. No adjustments for Casey Kane on the 9 car. Casey says he's got that car right where he wants it. Matt.
And leader Greg Biffle, a lot of debate back and forth between he and crew chief Doug Richard over whether to make an air pressure change or not. They decided against it. The car was just a tick on the tight side, Dick.
Tony Stewart very pleased with his automobile, asked for virtually no changes, but Greg Cipanelli, the crew chief, has said, need you to conserve fuel.
And down on pit road in the Gordon pit, they are indeed going ahead to change the battery now. As Jeff Hammond showed you earlier with our cutaway car. Now Steve Letarte and Jeff went back and forth about whether to go ahead and change out the battery because the volts, it was holding at 12, but with only 16 or 15 cars in the lead lap, Gordon running in 13th. As long as they don't lose a lap here, it's a great call because they're really not going to lose much position on the racetrack.
All right, this is going to be the battery animation here.